Cool. Hello and welcome to the Leighton Inclusion Interview Show, where we talk about the difference between kindness and cruelty with an emphasis on kindness. And today we'll be talking a lot about creativity and service with my special guest, Ricky Kej. Hi, Ricky. How are you?
Hey, wonderful to be with you right now.
Thank you. And it is wonderful. You have 24 albums, tons of jingles, inventions, Grammys, and folks that love him and will show up in crowds to work on your videos and your recordings. And I wanted to interview you actually when I saw the video of the national anthem of India, which you recently just sent an email out because it's India's anniversary now.
Absolutely. So we just celebrated our Independence Day on August 15th this year. And every year I try to do something special for our Independence Day. So the national anthem video that you're speaking about, I'd actually recorded that about 2 or 3 years ago. And what I did was that, the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra is a beautiful orchestra in London, and I've worked with them multiple times in the past, and they're pretty much my favorite orchestra to work with. And I just requested them a couple of years ago that that let's collaborate together and let's record a version of the Indian national anthem. So I came up with an arrangement,
Mhm.
and I put together 100-piece orchestra with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra with 100 of their finest musicians. And we recorded at Abbey Road Studios, a studio which I love recording at, and I conducted the orchestra. And there was a lot of subtext over there simply because, India has been ruled by the British for 200 years. We got our
Right.
independence in 1947. And in fact, the British would imprison us for singing the Indian national anthem during those 200 years. And so it was nice to see, an Indian composer conducting 100 of their finest musicians in their iconic studio, performing the Indian national anthem. And now that particular version of the Indian national anthem has become the definitive version of the Indian national anthem in India, where every year when we celebrate our Independence Day or when we celebrate any occasion where we need to play the national anthem, that's the version of the national anthem that is most preferred. So it's nice to know about that.
It absolutely is. And there was also a humongous 14,000 voice choir that sang on this
Absolutely.
video. And we'll post the video in the description below. So
Yeah,
14.
14,000 children from tribal communities in India. We got them together and as a choir. And so that in fact won a Guinness record because we had workshops for the children, singing workshops, because we did not want the children just to sing for the sake of it. We wanted to record them in four-part harmonies. So we had to have a very strong workshop, and for that we won the Guinness record for largest singing lesson in history. So it was quite unique to actually convert a entire stadium into a recording studio with these 14,000 children with over 200 microphones and multiple audio consoles and all of that stuff. So it was quite a because it's never been done before, so it was quite a logistical challenge because there was no precedence for us. We had to make things up as we went along.
Oh, sure, sure. But you also, I'm imagining that you have some folks that work with you or for you, and that there probably were dozens of or hundreds of teachers, if not.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean that nothing is possible without a fantastic team, and it's the same with me. So I've got my team, my core team, who works with me all the time for all the projects that we work on. And in addition to that, we relied on a lot of teachers from this institute known as the Kalinga Institute of Social Sciences in this beautiful city called Bhubaneswar in India. So we worked with those teachers, and it was quite a quite a team effort to get this done.
How many? I mean, it's obvious you set a goal and you worked towards it and had to coax people along, coax and coach folks along. How did you? What made you think of this idea, and how did you just get your foot in the ground? I'm not going to ask how you went from step A to step X, Y, and Z, but I'm definitely interested in the initial goal and how you were able to get things rolling.
So everything started off with the orchestra. So we wrapped up the orchestra, and and I recorded the Royal Philharmonic in London. And then back in India, the second step was working with the 14,000 children. So what we did was that we relied on the Kalinga Institute of Social Sciences, as I mentioned, and we brought together these 14,000 children from different tribal communities across, across multiple regions. And these are children who come from indigenous communities, and
Hmm.
a lot of them are from backward communities. And we brought them together. We gave them a singing lesson and a workshop, and we recorded them. So I would say that, like, yeah, the Guinness. Since we knew that we were going to be creating a Guinness record, we had gotten in touch with the folks at at the Guinness Records Committee, and
Uh-huh.
they sent a educator to audit the entire process. So they've got
Sure.
rules that, like, every 150 children need to have one teacher, and and that kind of stuff. So that's why we actually brought together that many teachers. So for every 150 children, we had one teacher who was constantly monitoring the children, whether they're singing or not, because you cannot have like 14,000 children over there and half of them are not singing.
No.
So every single one of them had to be singing. So that was very important. And also for the recording, it was very important. And then the third step to this whole process was bringing together the top Indian classical musicians from across the length and breadth of India, most of them being legends, to actually represent the soul of the particular piece, which in this case was the solos and the solo instrument. So we brought together some amazing musicians, legends, and people who are taking the flag of Indian classical music forward. And that was basically the third piece to the puzzle, and that was the entire Indian national anthem that I created.
You have a bunch of super talents. One of your talents is arranging, uh, but not just um, not just orchestral arranging, but arranging events and arranging people, and that's a leadership thing. And I think you keep busy because it's like 24 albums since 2004, something like that. That's
Yeah, since
amazing.
about 1999, actually. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'll allow that. Grace. But the new album, well, there's a new video actually from the new album, but the album is called Mantras of Compassion, and that's a collaborative effort, and it's called We Are One, which I think is both poetic for what we'd like to see with all the religions and all the haters connecting and loving, of course, but it's also we are one is could be a motto for what you're doing. No?
So the album itself that you're referring to is an album called Gandhi-Mantras of Compassion. So it's an album which has been inspired by Gandhi, the leader in India who's considered to be our father of the nation.
Mm-hmm.
And also, he's the person who led our freedom struggle against the British. And he did so. He got us freedom from the British without dropping a shed of without shedding a drop of blood,
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
through his non-violence resistance movement. And he has inspired not only our nation, but he's inspired the world because leaders like Martin Luther King Jr., the folk hero of America, he has said numerous times that he has been inspired by Mahatma Gandhi, and his entire civil rights movement was inspired by Gandhi. And it's the same with Nelson Mandela, where Nelson Mandela has said that his fight against apartheid was uh, was inspired by Gandhi, by his Satyagraha movement. And Gandhi's footprint has been felt all over the world, but people do not necessarily know that it is his footprint and it's his inspiration. So, and he's been my hero my entire life, like most Indians. And then in 2024, that is last year, I met with another hero of mine, a gentleman called Kailash Satyarthi. Kailash Satyarthi is a Nobel Peace Prize winner. In fact, the only Nobel Peace Prize winner from India. And Kailash Satyarthi won the Nobel Peace Prize for various reasons, but high among those reasons are that he has single-handedly, in his own capacity, freed over 100,000 children from child slavery and child labor. And not just that, he's
Oh,
also responsible for legislation in over 70 countries when it comes to child labor. So he marched to over 90 countries, and among those 90 countries, in over 70 countries, he actually helped create the legislation on child slavery and child labor. So
nice.
he's a very inspiring person, and for those reasons, he won the Nobel Peace Prize. So we did a tour together last year where we toured four cities in India, where he would speak for 30 minutes and I would speak for 90 minutes. And that was a beautiful tour that we did together, and I got to spend a lot of time with him. And during that time, one of the main things that we discussed was Gandhi. And both of us decided that let's make an album on Gandhi, which gives a refresher to the world, especially in today's times of a lot of hatred, a lot of,
Yeah.
a lot of trolling, war, unrest, stress, anxiety. Let's give a refresher to the world about the ideals of non-violence, of truth, of peace, of environmental consciousness of Gandhi. And that's how the album
Right.
was born. And I ended up putting together 200 musicians from over 40 countries. And that's how the album was created.
And he's the narrator on the album, right?
Correct. So he's narrated four pieces in the album, a total runtime of just about 1.5 minutes on the album.
Hmm.
So about 90 seconds of narration, but it was extremely important to have his voice on the album.
Is the album, because it's called Mantras of Compassion, is it prayers and hymns? Is that kind of how it's the vision has developed? Is it prayer or
So it's part of it is that. So Gandhi loved a couple of hymns, during his lifetime, which he would sing at his movements and at his large, activism, protests and things like that.
right?
So what we did was that Kailash and me, we selected five hymns, which were very dear and close to Gandhi. One of them being the VR1 song that you spoke about.
The video,
That's
yeah,
that's
first
based on a
video.
hymn called Raghupati Raghava Raja Ram. And then another one called Payoji, which is another hymn that he loved. Then there's another hymn that he loved called Vaishnava Janato. And in addition to that, the Christian hymn that is Abide With Me.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
also, yeah, Abide With Me was also a hymn that he absolutely loved during his lifetime. And another one being the Lord's Prayer, that is, Our Father who art in heaven. So what we did is that, like, I'll give you an example of the Lord's Prayer. What we did with that hymn was that we actually translated it to the ancient Indian language of Sanskrit. Now, Sanskrit is a very ancient living language, currently living language in India, which is said to be more than 10 or 15,000 years old. And this particular language is associated with Hinduism, just like how Latin is associated with Christianity, and
Yeah.
Hebrew is associated with Judaism, and Arabic is associated with Islam. Like that, Sanskrit is associated with Hinduism, which is the dominant religion within India. So we translated it into Sanskrit, and we got 100 priests and 100 nuns to actually record the song in Sanskrit in their voices within India. And after recording this earlier this year, when we had a rough recording, we got the Archbishop who actually facilitated this recording. He actually went to the Vatican, and he played a rough recording of this song to Pope Francis while he was still alive. And Pope
Oh,
Francis listened to it and he loved it, and he actually blessed the album by actually signing on a picture of the 100 priests and 100 nuns who actually recorded on the album. So
oh, cool.
that's a part of the album, and we'll be releasing a video of that very soon of the 100 priests and 100 nuns recording the song. And yeah, so that's the kind of spirit that has gone into this album, spirit of oneness. And the song that you spoke about, the video, we actually filmed that video over the last 2 years of me visiting various sacred sites across India, and showcasing that every religion
Yeah.
around this world has got a common goal. It's just that our ways of reaching that goal could be different through different religions, but the goal is always the same. And but what I showcase in the videos is sometimes even the pathway to reaching that goal also can be very similar, like similar rituals, similar way of presenting ourselves in front of God, similar types of hymns, similar types of costumes. So we've got more similarities than we have differences.
What I would love in my country, in the United States, there are some communities where people might complain because there's a creche the birth scene for Jesus in the town square. But I would love it if there was the creche, and then there was another religion's sacred moment and another religion's. I would love it if all the religions came out into the Times Square so that we could get social studies, that we could learn more about everybody. And I think that would create a true oneness with the world, and we'd understand each other's goals and love them.
No, I absolutely agree with you. And there are two aspects to this. One is, of course, having all the religions, represented in the particular event that you're speaking about. But the other way also to look at it is that every religion accepting the event that you're speaking about, even though it is about one religion, you know. So I think it's important for us to represent everybody and everybody to be, everybody to be, accepting and tolerant towards every other religion,
Yeah,
whenever
yeah,
they have their practices. I think it runs both ways. And I think all of us, as I said, if we just realize that we've got far more things in common than we have different, then I think this world will be a better place. And all of us realize that it's at the
absolutely.
end of the day, it's one planet. And when it comes to the threats of climate change, when it comes to the effects of environmental disasters, all of us are in it together because it's just one atmosphere on this planet, and all of us share that common atmosphere. So the thing is that if all of us realize that all of us are working towards a common goal of survival of the human species, then all of us will, I think, agree to work with each other.
We're going to talk about pollution of the mind in a moment, if you will. I want to do a call out to Abide with Me, which is gospel, but it has raga musical going through it. And you call yourself sometimes a fusion artist, even though there are times where you always seem to win the New Age award and you're being played on New Age radio shows. But still, you I agree with this whole fusion, because some of your performances rock. I mean, there's like excitement and DJs and scat singers and things like that. And I saw that also on your website. So fusion in spirit and fusion in music. Yes?
Now, I guess the genre boundaries no longer exist on this planet. That's what at least I believe.
Cool.
That everybody grows up with a variety of influences of music. So all of those music influences end up into our music too. Because previously, when we would speak about rock music, it only meant guitars, bass, drums, vocals,
Right.
That's about it.
Yeah,
But
flute.
now you see a lot of influences coming in where, you will have like a sitar within that, or you'll have a flute, or, or some keyboards or some electronic elements, or, some hip hop elements. So the thing is that everybody is just coming together with their various influences of music and trying to create a great song rather than creating a great rock song or a pop song or a hip hop song. Everybody's just trying to create a great song that connects with all of us. So,
Yeah.
like if you look at Abide with Me too, since you gave a shout out to that song, we have the gospel parts of the song have been created by Ricky Dillard, a person who shares my name, Ricky Dillard. Ricky Dillard is a gospel legend from Chicago, an absolutely amazing choir director, been nominated for the Grammy Award 9 times now. So I really pursued him for this particular song. I pursued him for many months because I really felt that he would be the right person to record, Abide with Me, and I'm very grateful that he and his choir they recorded the song for us. And yeah, and there is a lot of Indian rag influences within that song, and we created a fusion of sorts because I believe that, uh, you know with music connects everybody in the world, whether you are a Celtic musician, or a folk musician from Vietnam, or tribal musician, or an indigenous musician from India, or an aboriginal musician from Australia, or a pop musician from the United States. When everybody sits together and one person among those everybody plays a musical instrument, everybody joins in, everybody can join in just in harmony and just by listening to that particular person. So when and maybe maybe all of these people are unable to communicate through language or through even sign language or through any other medium. But if one person plays a musical instrument, everybody can respond with their particular musical instruments or their voice, and come together in beautiful harmony without even saying a word. And that is how universal music is as a language, that if all other languages or mediums of communication fails, music can get through people, and music can connect people.
Yeah, totally, totally. What connected with you first when you were a child? What music, what influences did you hear?
So, as a child, I actually grew up for the first 6 years of my life in America. I grew up in this beautiful town called Roanoke Rapids, which is in North Carolina. So, my
Okay.
father is a doctor, and he was a doctor in America for about 25, 26 years. And I happened to be born over there. So, for the first 6 years of my life, I was there. And my father had this massive music collection, of LPs during those days, the year 1981. And these were not just the hits of that particular era, like Madonna and Michael Jackson, Jackson 5, and the Bee Gees, and all of that stuff, but it was also so-called obscure, traditional music from different parts of the world, like choirs
Sure.
from Africa, traditional musicians from Southeast Asia, traditional folk music from across Europe, from South America. So I would listen to this music all day long, and I was obsessed with my music system. While my brother and my friends used to watch cartoons and television, for me, the center of my universe was my music system. And I would listen all day to music, pull apart songs, try to understand the various instruments used in the songs. And my father also had a couple of musical instruments at home, even though nobody was a musician in my family. I guess at some point he must have thought that he wanted to learn how to play a musical instrument. So he had a guitar, he had a small piano, he had a small keyboard, and I would play on these instruments. But very early on, my parents would tell me that instead of trying to copy the music that I was listening to, I would always try to express myself. So I would constantly create my own pieces of music while I was playing these particular instruments, and I would try to express my anger, my happiness, my joy, every emotion that I had. I would try to express it through these musical instruments, and then slowly I started writing songs. So my first tryst with playing a musical instrument was not by playing like how the music education system teaches us of playing known compositions and standards. It was always me trying to express myself through a musical instrument. Of course, later on I took a formal education in music, but these were my beginning stages of music, and these were my musical influences, and that's how I became a musician.
That's the best. That's so cool because you flowed, you got into it, which is your technique. And then you became a dentist. And I have to say that half of American dentists, and you're American, I didn't realize that.
Not
So, but
American, I'm Indian, but I happen to be born in America.
so you could be president. So
If I wanted to,
I know.
yeah.
Well, yeah, you could if you wanted to be. That's right. But half our dentists want to be songwriters as well.
Okay.
So there you go. And but you
But
made
I
the
did not, there was never
transition.
any intention for me to actually become a dentist. It was
Okay.
my father being a third generation doctor. He was furious in my 12th grade when I decided that I wanted to be a professional musician. And
Uh-huh.
because he knew I'm going to be a musician for the rest of my life because he loved my music. He felt that I was talented. But he never articulated it in his head that I wanted it to be a profession because he never thought that music could actually be a profession. He always thought that music would end up being a hobby. And so, after a lot of arguments and a lot of drama at home, we reached a compromise that I would have to finish off a degree in dental surgery, a DDS. And once I get that, then my life is my own, and my parents are never going to question any life choices of mine. So that's exactly what I did. I went to 5 years of college, but at the end of 5 years, when I got my degree, I gave the certificate to my father, and my musical career professionally had already started while I was in my dental school from the first year of my college, because in the evenings I'd already started recording commercials for television and radio. Already, I recorded my first album when I was in my second year of dental school. So yeah, so that's what. So basically, after I finished and I got my degree, I instead of doing music in the evenings, I was a full-time musician.
So the fact that you were working in advertising and being paid to do those jingles, you were in the inside looking out, so to speak, in music. You were doing it.
Absolutely. And that also gave my parents a lot of confidence that I'll be successful doing what I'm doing because by the time I was in my third year of dental school, I'd already built a professional studio with the money that I was actually earning through my music. I bought my first car when I was in the fourth year of my dental school. So I was already doing quite well. So by the time I finished off my dental school, my musical career had already, as I said, kick-started. So it's just that while I was in my dental school, I had to find ways to lie to my clients as to why I could not, record a jingle for them in the daytime, or why I could not meet them in the daytime, because I could not tell them I was in college because I would never get the job.
Right.
So I had to always tell them that I'm busy in the daytime, and let's start let's work in at 5 o'clock in the evening or 6 o'clock in the evening. And most of my clients thought that I was one of those night owls who would only work in the evenings, and that's the reason why I'm working in the evenings. And it also worked for my clients in America and in Europe because my European clients they would usually brief me on a commercial at about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon India time.
Mm-hmm.
So I would get to work on that. And my American clients, it would usually be about 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the night, India time. So,
You
so that way it worked out for me, and I started getting a lot of clients from overseas, from Europe and from the United States, and so everything just worked out. As I say, if you want to do something, then you'll find ways to do it.
absolutely. Now we're in your recording studio right now, or you're in your recording studio. I see it. Is there
Yeah,
any
that's not
gear?
a, yeah, this is not actually my recording studio. This is more of my writing room.
Oh
So
wow.
it's a space where I hang out most of the time when I'm in Bangalore. Unfortunately, with my travel schedule and my touring schedule, I get to spend very little time at home in Bangalore, maybe about 6 or 7 days a month. The rest of the time, I'm in various countries. Like, for example, last year in 2024, I ended the year doing about 70 concerts in almost about 30 countries. So it
Wow.
was quite a lot of traveling. But when I'm in Bangalore, I usually spend morning to evening in this particular studio. I mean, in this particular writing room. But I've got another studio. This is on the second floor of my home. So on the ground floor, I've got another studio which is more of a recording studio where I do a lot of my recordings there, and that's where I usually invite clients and I invite my people and musicians for the recordings. But this is my private space where I sit and I actually create my music.
Is some of the gear there from when you first started investing in yourself and buying gear in this room?
Not right now, not currently, but I've got another space at home where I've got a lot of gear which I started off with. So, as I said, I started off my career when I was 19, when I was in my first year. That is professionally, I started off my career when I was in my first year of dental school. But of course, I had gear even before that because while I was in high school, I would do performances. I would be on stage very often, and I would represent our school, in various inter-school competitions, national inter-school competitions.
Nice.
So all of that gear. I still have it. I have not sold a single piece of gear that I've ever had, and all of it is almost like they're not on display, but they're kept almost like museum pieces.
Okay, okay. Sure, I hear you. But you've got a lot of titles also given to you through the years and involvement in service. And we are going to talk about pollution of the mind and related to also your environmental causes, because you've been involved with the United Nations and UNESCO. Um, where where did you were how were you able to make the connection of pollution of the mind, mental illness, as well as the environment, and that this is something that makes sense to me. It totally does.
So I've always been an environmentalist my entire life. As I said, I've been a musician pretty much my entire life. So I've also been an environmentalist even before I knew the meaning of the word, environmentalist. And I've always been very concerned about everything to do with species, with animals, with forests, with climate change, with air pollution, plastics pollution, various causes. And so it was very natural that I would make music on these particular causes because I treat music, as I said earlier, as an extension of myself and as an extension of what I believe in. And I create music on things that I feel strongly about. Uh, so it was natural that I would create music on it. And a few years ago, that's when I decided that every piece of music that I make is going to be about, things that I feel strongly about. And I stopped all forms of commercial music. So we spoke about the music that I did for commercials and all of that stuff. So I stopped doing that completely because I decided that every piece of music that I make is going to be about things that I feel strongly about and things that I want to communicate to my audiences. So the environment has always been forefront in my life, and most of my music and most of my album has been about environmental concerns. And it was but natural that I would, and I would associate with the United Nations because the United Nations, what is it at the end of the day? It's an organization which is a conglomerate of their 193 member states. So
Right.
193 countries coming together and trying to figure out how do we prevent war, number one, and number two is that how do we, while we are preventing war and while we are preventing human beings from going to heaven, we should not be creating a hell out here. So, so
Nice.
that's why we have to ensure that that the Earth itself is a livable space, and the Earth itself, we treat our planet with a lot of respect, so that we ourselves as a human species survive. So,
Well,
because
Warner,
whenever we
yeah,
talk about the environment, whenever we talk about climate change, whenever we talk about global warming, we're not trying to save the planet because the planet will continue surviving even if we do not exist. Like even if the human species does not exist, the planet will continue revolving around its axis, continue rotating around the sun. So the thing is that the what we are trying to do right now by being more responsible citizens and being responsible to the environment is preventing us from creating an inhospitable environment for ourselves to survive. And
absolutely.
so we are actually preventing ourselves from extinction. So that's what we are doing. Now, when it comes to the environment and when it comes to mental health, and mental health is also one of the biggest challenges that we face on our planet today. Loneliness is being considered to be an epidemic by doctors worldwide. So, there is this ancient Hindu Buddhist philosophy which tells us that the impurities of the environment is in direct relation to the impurities of the mind. So, in order to purify the environment, we first have to purify the mind. And it seems very
Hmm.
obvious when you think about it that if we relieve ourselves from anxiety, from stress, from bad thoughts, from violent ideas, then basically automatically we will have more compassion on this planet, and compassion not only to our fellow human beings but to all life, that is flora, fauna, the plants, the trees, the animals, and all of this is important for our coexistence is the most important part of our survival, simply because this world at the end of the day is a very delicate balance of an ecosystem. And maintaining that delicate balance of these ecosystems when it comes to the forest, when it comes to flora and fauna and human beings, maintaining that delicate balance and the delicate, wheel of our ecosystems is basically key to our survival. Because uh, and that's what's been said from time immemorial. That's what scientists are saying right now. So that is why I believe that we first have to purify our minds, and if we purify our minds, then automatically the environment and the people around us will, I mean, the environment around us and people will become far more compassionate.
Absolutely. It starts in our own backyard or forehead.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Um, we're I want to do a cutaway and talk about television because this is a woman named Heather Cox Richardson who I watch a lot on YouTube every day. She almost every day she does updates with what's going on in the world, and then periodically she also does series on American history and finding ways that the past is in the future. And I discovered her in part because into New England history, especially how the Puritans and the Quakers did not coexist together, even though both were Christians. So that's my quote TV show that I'm raving about. What about you? Are there any TV shows or movies that have hit your heart in the right way over recently or in the past few years?
Lots of them actually. I'm of course a huge fan of Sir David Attenborough, the naturalist from the UK.
Mm-hmm.
I watch any show that he comes up with, and of course I've had the honor to collaborate with him on a movie called Wild Karnataka. It was a movie about the natural history about this beautiful region in India, which is one of the top 10 biodiversity hotspots on this planet, and also a place where which has got the most number of indigenous species available, which are not available anywhere else in the world. So the most number of indigenous species in the world, which is only paralleled by the Amazon. So,
Oh, wow.
I worked on, I composed the music for that film, and I got to work with Sir David Attenborough in the process. He's of course, I think 96 right now, and still very active. And every single conservationist or environmentalist on this planet has got a story about how they've been inspired by Sir David Attenborough in some way or the other, because he uses love as a way of uh, of uh, of moving people and inspiring people to action. Because there are always two ways to do that. One is to shame people into action by showcasing doom and gloom, and by showcasing a post-apocalyptic scenario and things like that, and shaming people into action. But I believe that that is effective in some ways, like for example, for getting governments to step in and take immediate
Mm-hmm.
action, but it does not have a long-term effect. But you know, showcasing love by showcasing the beauty of our planet, and you know, and the beauty of our ecosystems, and inspiring people through that beauty to actually to find it within themselves to protect, to conserve, and to sustain our beautiful planet. I think that's the way to go, and that's a more long-lasting approach, and the approach that Sir David Attenborough takes. Other series that I've like, there are so many series on various OTT platforms that I like. I love watching sitcoms for that matter, simply
Cool, cool.
because it's an easy watch, you know, watching a sitcom sometimes, and you know, and almost resetting your brain, you know, by having a couple of laughs, and
Laughter.
you know, and, laughter I think helps tremendously. So I like sitcoms. I like other series too. So yeah, so there are lots of television shows that I like.
I have to interject something because one of the things that I loved about Gandhi, Dr. King, Jesus were, if you see something wrong, you go to the person that's doing something that should be corrected and you say, hey, blah, 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 let's fix it. The person doesn't want to do it. You go to two or three other people. And if that doesn't work, I tend to only do this now with politicians, my community leaders, which would be to out them. And that's kind of a replacement for the word shame,
Yeah.
where you see something wrong, and you just have to out them. And I took that in part from Gandhi and from Dr. King and Jesus. That seemed to be part of their philosophy for getting things done,
Yeah, but
right?
shaming in a non-violent way, you know, that's the key. Because if you look at Jesus Christ, if you look at Mahatma Gandhi, all of them they looked at, and and of course Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, all of them used non-violence as a way to resist whatever they felt was unjust, you know,
Right.
and uh, and I think that's the key. I think non-violence, because I think that's the way to. Because as soon as you use violence, then you are stooping to everybody else's level, you know. So that's
Yes.
the thing.
Yes. And you can do that through parody, letters to the editor. All of
Yep.
us have the internet, community discussion forums, writing poetry, writing songs.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob
Art.
Dylan.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's something else that I went to your Instagram page, and you that's beautiful. You wrote, we're spoofing the Coldplay concert with this one, but you have dogs. You actually rescue animals.
True. So the thing is that, of course, I've got two beautiful dogs, and the uh, India has got something known as stray dogs, what we call indie draw dogs, you know, and they
Yeah,
are everywhere in India, and it's sort of like a breed of its own, because these dogs, unlike most of the other pedigree dogs that we have at home, you know, they've actually gone through some sort of an evolutionary process, and because they've lived on the streets, they understand, I mean, that their bodies have acclimatized to the weather of India and the street conditions and outdoors and things like that. These are dogs which are very agile. They can jump really high. They are very street smart. They're very manipulative because they have to figure out how to get their food. They are also extremely territorial. You know, like for example, the stronger dogs end up getting territories which are which are around butcher shops or around supermarkets because that's where they can get the most amount of food. Or
Right.
around, or the stronger dogs get to have areas which are around, homes where there are very generous, people living in there. So that's the way it is. And so these dogs love being on the street. It's never encouraged to actually pick them up and bring them home and give them a home simply because they actually like their freedom and they like being on the street. So, and
Ah,
they've got their own uses too, like in terms of social uses, because like for example, in on my street we have about 7 or 8 of these dogs. And if there is somebody who's not supposed to be on the street in the middle of the night, these dogs start barking really loudly and they wake up the entire neighborhood. And in case there is somebody who's supposed to be on the street, like a car pulls in at, let's say, 1 a.m. or 2 a.m., the dogs do not even whimper. They know that this is a person who's supposed to be on the street. So they actually work as beautiful guard dogs, and they help society in general. And so we love them. We love them, and that's why we want to keep them. What we do is that we sterilize them, and we also ensure that they are vaccinated. So pretty much every street dog in India has been vaccinated and has been sterilized. So that the population does not grow completely out of control. They also help in cleaning up the streets and things like that. So they help with the rodent problem. So they've got their uses, and they are a very important part of our society. So there was this one dog who so what happens with these street dogs is that when a mother who is not sterilized, in
mm,
case she gives birth, then she takes care of her 6 or 7 children for about a period of about 3 weeks. And then at the end of 3 weeks, she starts pushing them in different directions because the mother starts looking at the child as being competition for food after about 3 or 4 weeks, because that's the way that the animal kingdom works. So
sure.
she pushes away the children, and one of these puppies landed up outside my home. And this puppy was fighting for survival, and very, very cute puppy. And my front door neighbor started taking care of this puppy and giving the puppy food regularly and started keeping the puppy in his home. And then, when the puppy was no longer cute after about 4 or 5 months, he pushed the puppy outside his home. And the puppy would struggle to try to enter the home, but he would not allow the puppy to enter. But the issue here was that the puppy had lost its 4 or 5 months of crucial time to understand how to live on the street, because food was
Yeah.
coming easy to the puppy, and it had lost these instincts, these street instincts as we call it. So the puppy couldn't. It would have been impossible for the puppy to survive on the street. And this one night, I could hear the puppy, screaming and screaming. And I went downstairs to see what the issue was, and I saw that the puppy tried to enter through the compound of my front door neighbor. And in doing this, in struggling to try to enter the compound, he broke all 4 of his legs. And
Oh,
and it was a really sad situation. So I carried him into my home, and I took him to the vet the next day. And I thought that I'll take care of him for maybe about 2 weeks till he completely heals. And unfortunately or fortunately, it's been 8 years now, and he's still with me. And so so as I said, they're very manipulative, these dogs. So this
oh
one was
yeah.
extremely manipulative. And so that's the two dogs. And the dog, my golden retriever, he was actually, that he was actually, as a young puppy, he was sold to a family. And that particular family, they sort of like rejected the puppy after a couple of weeks because they found out that, that the child in the family was allergic to
Oh,
Hachi, that is my golden retriever. So nobody was adopting him because he was a little too old to be adopted. So that's when I adopted him and I brought him home. And 6 months into having him, I realized that I'm allergic to him. Yeah, I realized that I'm allergic to him, and because every morning I would wake up with my throat closed, I would
sure.
struggle to breathe. My eyes would be red and it would be watering all the time. So Hachi right now is about 14 and a half years old right now, even though the lifespan of Golden Retriever is usually about 12. So he's been with me for 14 and a half. He's right next to me right now.
Hey,
And
baby.
so I take an antihistamine every alternate day just to be with
You
him.
rock.
So I've been doing that for the last 14 and a half years.
That is so wonderful. Hey, look, I would do the same thing if it turned out I have cats. I have 4 cats. And if I were allergic, I'd be on antihistamines or something like that too, or drinking extra
Absolutely.
water. So Yeah. Ricky, there's a lot I could talk with you about. I know that you have inventions. I know that you never stop composing and you have more things that you're thinking of. And I know that you're on the road. Anything that you want to add?
Um, Nothing much actually, but I would say maybe two things. One is that, of course, I would encourage everybody to listen to the album Gandhi-Mantras of Compassion. It's something that has been created out of a lot of love and care. And the album itself is 100% independent, even though I'm signed with a label. It's this album I decided to do completely independent because I wanted it to reach as far and wide as possible without any commercial interests. So there is no piracy when it comes to this album. You can just spread it as far and wide as you want, and there is nobody who's going to come and put a copyright strike on you. So would love for this album to even go institutionally, like for free to schools, to colleges, to prisons, to all these various other institutions, so that it has its intended purpose. Then the second thing would be that I would say that that we constantly talk about changing the world when we talk about the environmental crisis and we talk about other issues that we face, as a species. But we very rarely talk about changing ourselves. So I would say that I would encourage everybody that that it's really important that we find a few things that we could do within our own lives, like reducing our consumption of single-use plastics, or reducing our dependence on fossil fuels by actually carpooling, or using public transportation, being kind to one another. There are so many things that we can do within our own lives that to actually make a difference, and we don't have to be hard on ourselves. We don't have to sacrifice in order to be responsible. We can just do one or two very tiny things within our own lives to make a difference. So I guess
Mhm.
we could just figure out what is it that we can do without being hard on ourselves, and which could come easy to us, and just go ahead and do that. So I think it would be important
Absolutely.
that we, as Gandhi said, be the change that we want to see in this world. Oh, there's your
I
cat.
like that. I so like that. Absolutely. And your website is rickykej.com. Are
Exactly.
and this is actually the page I'm showing is /about. But I like I thought that was a great photo, and there's a sweet description of what you've done. And also later on that site you can find those earphones that you invented. So
Correct. Correct.
that's
Yeah.
amazing. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. Keep up the great work. I I want I know that you're going to be doing something productive today. So,
Yeah, I'm traveling actually. I have to head to the airport in about half an hour.
all right. Thank you for your time. You have a
Thank you
blessed
so
day,
much.
and woof to the family.
I will do that.
All right. Take
Thank you. All
care.
my
Thank
best.
you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.